Mm-hmm.
Why do we already pay for it and then go borrow again?
Yeah.
Bad moments of bad luck still.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more. That's
Well, that's good.
We're hoping to push that up heavily, other than where it's at.
Well, you get the website up and minimal viable product. We'll throw some, throw some stuff up here for you. All right.
I'm James Ray. Yeah, the company name is Vista Crypto. Yes, it's Vista Crypto. And it's under a member association for tokenization called Worldwide Homeowners Association. The decentralized Worldwide Homeowners Association. We work with people that live 1,000 miles away or next door. An incredible you is the private citizen service, and that's really why I'm trying to get somebody overstock people who are in the game right now.
Okay.
We're putting together all of our invitation tenders right now.
Oh, really? Well, there's a few Overstock guys here as well, so Tron's one of them. So.
Speaking of that ruthless feedback, I think we will get this crypto and make it easy and a lot of this crypto hard, whatever that is. So you're gonna have to ramp up your SEO up and down.
Or just do an ICO, raise $10 million off of an idea, and then just that'll work out for you.
But if you think about how cool that is to tokenize your own equity.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Brand your own equity.
Instead
of going borrowing and buying some Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of equity in my house right now. I don't know what to do with. So, I don't like assets that are just kind of sitting idle. So I totally understand it. What about anybody else? Anybody else working on something cool that's local that's doing something that they want to talk about or mention? I mean, we got a children's book. That's my favorite.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Anybody else? Anybody else working on something cool they want to share? Like I said, there's a lot of really cool people in the room. All right. Well,
Working on my retirement, like buying more coins.
There you go. Anybody else?
I'll throw out one little thing. So I started just like a quarterly lunch for engineers who have software engineers who have an interest in blockchain technology, like get together like in a more kind of casual setting, just around a lunch table and talk about their interests, what they're doing. My first one can be on Tuesday. So if there's any engineers in the group who would like to come join us, come grab me. I'd be happy to send an invite. Lunch is on me.
You want to post it on the Bitcoin Meetup at all? And like just be really specific that like engineers only? Yeah, we do it.
I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna try and make it like Mid-Valley. I'm just trying to figure out like who's coming and like where like everyone's kind of coming from. But what's that? I mean, so far I only have one person
Okay.
out of like. I mean, it's not like a huge group so far. It's probably like 10, 12 people maybe that are gonna be there so far. But I've had a couple people write me like throughout the day being like, hey, when are we gonna do it? So I know like there's.
Have you connected with like the dev school over at Impact Hub at all? Because I know that they were teaching a lot of their developers about blockchain.
Oh really?
Yeah. I can give you the CEO's number if you want. All right, guys. Well, let's get started. My name is James Leba. I run the Bitcoin Meetup. I've been doing it now for about a year and a half. It feels like. It just seems like every month it just keeps on going, and like it's always like, oh, another meetup. We gotta get a speaker. I'd like to thank Medici Ventures for sponsoring the space. Here's a group of the different companies that are local to Utah that have contributed to the Bitcoin Meetup, so that way we can kind of keep things going. You know, from time to time we'll buy things like name tags or USB drives and stuff like that. These guys help cover a lot of the the things that we need. Tusk Network, their cryptocurrency in the gun industry. PowerBlock, I work with them. I do their business development. We do cryptocurrency loans. Coinbook is a local cryptocurrency exchange. And then Medici Ventures is the venture capital arm for Overstock.com. So all these different groups have contributed one way or another. So I'd like to just kind of spotlight these guys. If you are interested in learning more, let me know, and I'm happy to connect you to who's running those guys. Today's presentation is going to be about Ravencoin. The principal software engineer, Tron Black, will be speaking about Ravencoin and what's going on with Ravencoin. Ravencoin is a cryptocurrency that was a fork of Bitcoin that has been gaining a lot of notoriety lately. It's a the dev support is through Overstock.com venture, Medici Ventures, and because of that, it's become really popular, not just in Utah, but just around the world. I've introduced Tron in Las Vegas, Nevada for one of the cryptocurrency conferences, and it was by far like just a packed room. Everybody from all over the world wanted to come and learn about Ravencoin and learn from Tron Black. Tron has his Twitter handle, and he'll literally just throw something on Twitter and it goes completely crazy. So, the fact that, here in Utah, we have Medici Ventures, we have guys like Tron that are, in Utah who are down to earth, happy to help talk to you, answer questions. I think that this is awesome that he's here. So let's give a round of applause for Tron, and let's hear about Ravencoin.
Unplug this one? Yeah. So that was very dangerous. Things like that make my head swell, and that's not good.
But you're probably one of the most humble people in the entire space, so.
Next to Satoshi.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like Craig Wright.
Oh, really?
Okay. So, you want me to use a microphone?
We're recording, so
It'd probably be better then.
better, yeah.
There it goes. All right. Turned up a little bit. All right. So I'm Tron Black. You already heard all this. So Ravencoin is a project that's done here at Medici. There's a bunch of really good developers that are put on this. Originally a fork of Bitcoin. Has a coin as a value. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4-ish cents, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 cents. Something like that. But the main thing on how many just, I'm going to short circuit this because if everybody knows, how many know what Ravencoin is because they've listened to this a whole bunch of times? Almost everybody. Okay, I'll make this pretty quick then. It's a blockchain that allows you to create your own asset. So you can create your own tokens. It's super easy. Costs 500 Raven. That's roughly in the $22 range right now. And so you have Raven, and you say, I want a token named whatever you want to name it. The name has to be unique. You put in how many you want, and whether it's reissuable, meaning you can make more, and you click go, and then you're the proud owner of these coins. What those coins are is kind of up to you, but they're now tokens that are sort of counterfeit-proof tokens that you can transfer and move around like Bitcoin. So that's really what Ravencoin is. We have a bunch of other stuff that we're kind of adding to it, the ability to do messaging, the ability to send dividends to people who hold the tokens, the ability to make tokens that are restricted and only get sent to certain addresses, and that's for regulatory purposes, but those tokens will be different. They'll have a $ at the beginning so everybody knows. So that's what Ravencoin is. Most of the people here have been to either the Ravencoin Meetup, or I've talked about it here a bunch of times. So Mostly what I'm going to do tonight is talk about new things that have been built on, for, or with Ravencoin. So these are projects that are kind of in progress, and so mostly I'll talk about those. I'm going to fly through these slides, really, really quick. So there's 21 billion coins, 1-minute blocks, X16R mining, a larger reward. We do have all 6 platforms functioning. This one has not been released yet for assets, but you can store Raven on Android. You can store Raven and assets on iOS, Windows, Mac, Linux, and web. And that's actually, this one was a community developed project. There's actually 2 of them that you can store assets and Raven. And so I will talk about those more. The Android support with assets is in testing now. And it's doing pretty well, so that one will be available. If you just want to store Raven, you can do it now on the Android app. But if you want to store assets, meaning these other tokens that you've created or that someone else has created, you'll need the new one, and that's coming soon. These are just different uses for assets: gift cards, reward programs, tokenizing land, homes, cars, energy credits, gold. It's just if you're familiar with ERC20, it stores the same kind of things. It's just tokenizing. Has one additional really, really cool feature, though, that you can attach data to the issuance, and you can do this now. Data to the issuance of the token that can be a document, it could be a PDF, it could be a 4K movie, it can be whatever. And that data is immutable, meaning you can't tamper with it because the hash of it is in the chain, and that points to the data that you download. So the big advantage of that is you can create a document that says this token means this, and then you can't change it later. Yeah, connecting crypto with the existing financial world is like a bit like mating a golden retriever with a squid. I was unable to find a picture of that. Yeah. So you've heard that, ERC20 but better. This is how the hashing works, so quick description. You guys don't need to see that. Assets are done, sub-assets are done, dividends are in progress, unique assets are done. Messaging is on testnet. So messaging, this is pretty new. If you went to the Ravencoin Meetup, you know about this. So messaging is the ability to send a message to the token holder. So let's say you created a token that represented a house or equity, and then you wanted to message those people. Maybe you wanted to say, hey, we're selling the house, you need to come turn these in, or something like that, or we're something, I don't know what you would message them, but whatever you wanted to message them, you as the issuer of the token can send that token to yourself with an IPFS hash in it, and the clients, this isn't all complete yet, but the clients, the Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, web clients will pop up a message, and you have to be sitting in front of it, obviously it can't track you down, but it'll pop up and give you that message. So that helps you if you wanted to do an alert, do a vote, something like that. You can send messages to the token holders, even if the token holders are no longer the same. Like you sent it to them, they sent it to their friends, they split it twice and sent it to 5 other people. Those people could be anywhere in the world, and you can now message them as long as they're kind of seeing the wallet. Voting is the ability to send people tokens that they can send to different addresses to kind of indicate their preference. And these are places you can get Ravencoin. So Binance, Bittrex, if you have Bitcoin on these, Binance you can't do right now, wait a week. And VertBase is direct USD to Raven. So if you have dollars, want to connect your bank account and buy it directly, recommend VertBase. Otherwise you need to kind of get Bitcoin from Coinbase and move it over there. This is the Ravencoin Asset Explorer. This is a good place to start probably on these other projects that other people have built. So this is not ours. We didn't build it, but it's awesome. And so you basically can put in an asset, and it will show you the asset, how many have been created, whether it has an IPFS hash. The IPFS hash is the pointer into the file system. You can click. If you click, it'll show, or actually this one just automatically shows it. So in this case, they've attached this graphic, this PNG in the IPFS hash. This could have been a movie, it could have been a PDF, it could have been anything. And what gets stored is this hash. This hash is the file. How many know what IPFS is? Not that many. Okay, I'm going to cover that real quick then. IPFS hash is a file system that's kind of trying to figure out how to describe it. It's BitTorrent meets Dropbox. So it's a distributed file system where you throw a file in, and then it gives you back a hash, and everybody can find it by that hash. And as long as someone is storing that file, then the asking for the file from Cloudflare, which is kind of a big has a proxy to it, by this hash. So Cloudflare, ipfs.cloudflare.com/ipfs/this will get you that file. And if it's a different file, comes back with a different hash, and you get that file. As long as somebody's storing it that's connected to IPFS, it'll kind of find it, route it, and kind of get it to the. It's getting stored by, if one person puts it in, it's stored on their machine, and they're kind of like the source. If they store it and like 10 people ask for it, parts of it are stored on like 10 machines. If they store it and 100 people ask for it, 100 parts of it are stored on 100 machines. And if like everybody wants it, then it's stored in pieces all over, and it comes together kind of like Iron Man's suit, kind of all comes together to the point where you can like say, I want to watch this movie, click with one of these, and the pieces, if a bunch of people are watching this movie, the pieces are stored all over, and they just come together, and the movie starts playing within a second or two. I mean, it is ridiculously cool technology. And combined with Ravencoin, you also get this ability that this hash actually goes in the blockchain, and that's immutable. You can't change it, right? It's in blockchain. It's just recorded and then blocks stacked on top of it, so it can't change. So you can't go tampering with the file on IPFS because it's stored kind of by this reference. And if the file changed, it would be a different reference. So even if somebody put something, took this, edited a little bit, even on that same hard drive, right? It's no longer the same file, no longer the same reference. And so you can't tamper with the file because it would be changing it and changing the name of the file. This is kind of like the file name or the file reference. Because of that, whatever you put in whatever you put in the blockchain, that can't change. And if someone tampers with the file, then it's really not the same file, so it has a different reference. So you won't get a different file if you go looking for that thing and they've tampered with it. So anyway, it works out really well. These two technologies connected and done, I don't know, more amazing things than I expected them to, which has been kind of fun. Yes, so IPFS is free. It's open source. You download it, you install a daemon, IPFS daemon, right? And you say IPFS daemon run, and you can do it on Windows, Linux, Mac, right? And then you say IPFS add and the name of a file, like myfile.pdf, right? And it kicks back one of these. It says, here you go. It takes this file, puts it in a special folder, like sort of under, kind of hidden under app data or whatever. Depends on which operating system you're running. Puts this file in there, kicks back this, and then sits there and as a server for that file in case somebody else asks for it, right? Comes in, finds it, starts distributing it. This thing's just sitting there distributing the file. If a whole bunch of people want the file, then it kind of flows through their machine, get chopped up and encrypted in their hard drives, and then kind of assembles faster. So the more people that use it or want that file, the faster it's delivered. And as long as somebody's storing it, there's kind of a source of it. You have a question? Sort of. So no, in IPFS, you can't just say, well, I want to change this file to something else. You could certainly make something that said, here's a list of the file versions. Here's a name, right? It could even be a Ravencoin name, right? And Ravencoin name. So you create this name, and then you keep your token reissuable, and you can change the IPFS hash. Well, it's not really changing it. It's a record. Like, this is what its original one was. You've changed it to this, 1,000 blocks later. So now you have, 2 IPFS hashes. The first one you created it with, and then you changed it later, which you can do as long as you leave the token reissuable. It will give you a different one of these if you put a different file in. So now you've got a history of all of the ones. Now, this Explorer will only show you the last one, but you could write your own Explorer that's monitoring the chain and saying, this token has had 7 changes, and here's the last one, and you could roll back and that kind of thing. If, however, you say it's not reissuable, Ravencoin will not let you change this. So that's just a feature and the consensus rules for Ravencoin. So you can kind of do it either way. But you can't. The thing you can't do is change that file and keep this same name, right? So now you're just going from the reference name of like, okay, here's a token name, Raven logo, right? To this, you could change that if they left it reissuable, which they did, right? So that token is reissuable right up here. So because that's reissuable, they could change this logo, but both would be in there. Both of these references would be in there. Yeah, I kind of jumped from the Raven Asset Explorer to IPFS, but that was probably helpful.
There's currently 3,000 plus assets on there.
19,000. This is way old.
Oh, okay.
There's 19,000 plus. Yep, there's 19,000 plus currently. Yeah, I think this is just a picture. I can pull it up. Here, let me do this. Yeah, so 19,239. And it's a little scary being at work and clicking on these assets, because if I click on one, it's going to display whatever is in that IPFS hash. And I don't know what that is. And it could be anything, right? I don't have control over it. One thing we did do is we created a file format. This is JSON, so it's a file format that we recommend that says you should put in the name of the asset, the that's actually not our format. I don't think so. There's other ones that have our format. Yeah, that one looks like it's a song that they put in there. So here's one. Let's see. I probably shouldn't click on all these. Don't do it. Yeah, so here's one that has, this one is our format. So it has quantity, units, whether it's reissuable. It has the Mango Farms name, a description of what it is, the issuer, who issued it, a website URL you can go to about it. So this is a recommended format from us that could be parsed by somebody running through, finding the IPFS, jumping to the link, reading this, with computer reading this and saying, oh yeah, these are the website that's connected to this. But that was what we kind of suggested. What has happened is people have put in whatever they want, and that most of the time has been an image or PDF or different things. All we store in the chain is this QM file, this hash right here, the IPFS hash. Okay, I'm going to jump to, okay, this is our community page. If you want to know more about Ravencoin, again, most of you probably know this, just go to ravencoin.org, ravencoin.com, get Ravencoin. These two will basically have this community page, and then there'll be a bunch of these links, and you can go on Discord and Twitter and Wiki page and all these, Reddit, and so we have all these community pages. We don't run them. They're run by community members. We monitor them a little bit just to make sure things haven't gone wildly out of control. Not that we can do anything if they have gone wildly out of control, but so let me jump to this. So this was so these are the things that are outside of what we're doing and other people are doing. So this is the most exciting one that I've seen in quite a while. This is a spend app. So this one does have a referral code. So just, full disclosure, if you use this referral code, I get $10 and you get $10. I'm going to use these funds. I've already told the community I will use funds for anybody using this code to help get me to the Ravencoin meetup that's in Europe in Amsterdam. So it is an Android and iOS app. And I'm not doing this to show this app. I don't get paid for them other than this referral code thing, so I guess that's not entirely true. The Spend app has a wallet, a crypto wallet, for about 17 coins. And as of yesterday, also includes Ravencoin. So you can store Ravencoin on this app. You can connect a credit card, not connect a credit card, get a credit card from them, virtual or real physical one they'll mail to you, that when you swipe that credit card, it will debit from whatever crypto account that you have chosen. So if you have Bitcoin, you can say, I want it to sell Bitcoin and turn that into dollars and pay for, whatever at Home Depot or something. And you can choose which one, right? So it's Ravencoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Dash, just a bunch of crypto coins. It also has a loan tab, although that isn't active at least for our region. I don't know if our region means the US or Utah, but that's not currently active. It shows you the price. It shows you accumulated, kind of like how much you have in each of the account, like each account, like how much Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Dash, et cetera, that you have, and then a total. But probably the most impressive thing is just like this is a bridge right to to just spending crypto wherever you want. Anyway, really, really, really cool app. You can download it. The app's free. I think the credit card's $25. And then I think they even have a rewards program where you get some small amount when you spend with so. So I only installed it today, and it doesn't appear to have one. So they may be making money by pretending it's a credit card, and then the merchant pays the 3%, and that normally goes to like your 2% cash back or something. I don't know. Haven't seen they got to be making money somewhere. But okay. I will do that. Actually, if anybody has installed a Raven wallet and just wants like $1 worth of Raven to play with it, I will send and just come talk to me and I'll give you some Raven. Okay, so I'll leave that up. So that was the Asset Explorer, the Spend app. Let me do this. Mango Farm Assets. How many have seen this? I've talked about it at least once or twice before. How many are familiar with this? Okay, this is a web wallet. So it will shrink to your phone. So So if you do it on an Android or an iOS, it'll shrink down. You can store Raven. You can store assets, and you can move them around. And it's all the signing is done client side. They do store your encrypted file of your private keys on their server, but they're encrypted with your passwords, an extra PIN for your private key, and that's stored in them. When you put in your email and your password, the email sends the thing over, and it decrypts that and does everything and signs locally. And if you don't trust that, you can use their newest feature, which is, let me log out. Here, let me do it this way. You can store Raven on Trezor now? Yeah, through here. Through here for sure. I thought Raven was supported by Trezor, but last time I looked, it was not. But I thought it was. 1 second. So, Trezor mode. Click. So this basically loads up the Trezor, and you connect your Trezor, and you can now store Raven, not assets unfortunately yet, but they're working on it. This is a problem with Trezor, so I think they've submitted a pull request to get that working. But yeah, you can support, this supports Trezor support. So it basically, your Trezor, it says, hey, can we send your public keys out? And you say yes, and it sends it over, and so the website will look everything up and show your balances, and then when you spend stuff, it'll pop up your Trezor, and you say, yep, I approve that transaction. And so, yeah, for sure through this, it's Trezor support. Yep. So anyway, that is really cool. And they also have an asset builder. This is, so remember I told you about that file format that we create that has, all the different things in it? That's the things that you put in here. So your asset name, full asset name, description, issuer, website, URL, contact information, the type, et cetera, an image URL, contact phone, whether it's restricted or not. So all of this you fill in. It creates that file format and submits it to IPFS and gives you back your IPFS thing, and then automatically creates your token. So this is a token issuance platform that you can use and play with, and it issues it kind of according to our standards. And then there's an asset viewer. So if you just type in an asset, you can click on that, and it will take that metadata that's stored in IPFS. And so this is the metadata. This is just one we created, MVI, Medici Ventures Inc. So it shows like the issuer that came out of the metadata, contact address, contact email, et cetera. And then it also has a thing where if you want to do like social media kind of thing, you can click on, I think, this link and send stuff out via Facebook and email and things like that. So that's Mango Farm Assets. So another project that's being built on top of Ravencoin is GunCert. So this is the ability to kind of move a token that kind of represents the fact that you own a firearm. And so it moves, and then on the firearm would be a little laser etch thing that hopefully, you know, as it gets bigger, the law enforcement would see that and say, hey, do you have the token kind of representative of this? So it's not tying to your name. They don't have to look stuff up, but they can kind of see that you're the real owner of a firearm without kind of knowing your name. So it's intended to be more privacy oriented, and it is being done by people who are very privacy oriented, kind of related to that. And then so the Android wallet. So the Android wallet is, that is one that we're working on. And it is, I think I already mentioned this. So it's in testing now. And you can get the Android wallet now that stores Raven, but the Android wallet that stores assets, so the ability to send your assets around, that is coming very, very soon. There's a new update for iOS that's being tested. This will also be updated very soon. So it'll be very much like the iOS app that's currently out there, but it will support Sweep. Sweep, how many people know what Sweep is as far as, okay. So Sweep is where you have a private key and you want everything taken out of that private key and put into a private key that your phone holds. So it's different than just importing a private key. Let's say you had a private key like on a, you know, like a paper wallet. You had the private key and you had funds in there, and there's an address and a private key. If you've ever printed out from like an ATM, you have a private key and a public key, and you can deposit to the public key and you can spend with the private key. So if you import that into your phone, right, and import, so it brings in the private key, and now your phone also has that private key, but then you left that on a table, right? Then someone says, oh, private key, and they can spend your funds, and even though your phone all of a sudden just, you know, the funds kind of disappeared. Your phone said, oh, I have the private key, scan the funds, I've got the funds. Sweep is different. Sweep is take everything out of that private key and put it into a private key that the phone has. So that's Sweep. And so it's really nice if you're storing things on a paper wallet or something like that. You're basically just saying, take everything off of here, and now the paper wallet's worthless, right? It's just an empty random number now because everything, you know, assets and Raven and everything has been taken off of it. So that feature is coming soon with the phone in testing. So it really isn't, except that with the normal transaction, if you said, I want to send 25 Raven, for example, right? Your phone has the private key. It'll go look for unspent outputs that add up to at least 25. It might find it in like 6 or 7 private keys. Kind of have to say input, and sign them all, and then send the 25 Raven and send the change back, right? This is take everything that's in this private key, take everything out of it and send it, including assets, Raven, everything. Just clear it out and move it to another address. It is a regular transaction. It's just designed to take everything and also to make it so that you don't have to look at it and say, what's in it, right? How much? And okay, I need to do 22.6344 Raven, this asset, and this asset, and put them all together and do a send. It's like a just clear, you know, take everything and move it over. So Ravenland. Ravenland is a guy out there, codename Push. If you follow the Discord at all, and he's doing these projects. He's one of the big things he's doing. Probably the most important thing I think is he's got servers that run through the Ravencoin blockchain and find the IPFS hashes that are in the chain and grabbing those files and storing them. So he's acting as a, what's that? A seeder, that's probably a good term. So basically storing an additional copy of those files. Now, if the original issuer is storing that file, great. It's the same file, same hash, there's no conflict. You can add that file to the network because it's the same hash, same file, same everything, 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. You could have it stored on 1,000 different computers. It doesn't matter. It's always the same file and it's always the same hash, so the same name. So it'll get it from wherever it's closest, or where, I don't know how the underpinnings of it work, but basically it's fine. It's not a problem. So there can be lots of people that do this, and then also working on code to do this that you can say, oh, I want to do that too. And so you can do a Raspberry Pi and have it do it, connect a drive to it, and it'll scan through the chain and do the same thing. Then he's also doing a block explorer. So let me see if I have that up. I do not. What's that? Just doing it out of the goodness of his heart, and just great guy. Yeah, so we're appreciative. There's actually a lot of people doing a lot of things really just to help the coin. One second. So he's running this Asset Explorer, and then also running this Block Explorer, which is based off Insight. This will look familiar. You can put in addresses, transactions, etc. And then also Ravencoin OS. So this runs on Raspberry Pi, and you can connect a drive, and it will go through and basically become a seeder. So if you want to run for, a $50 drive and a Raspberry Pi, you can help out the network and be a seeder for the IPFS hashes. Does a blog, a faucet, gives away coins and test coins, and then this IPFS mirror. So this mirrors the. So these are all the different IPFS hashes that are inside Ravencoin. So anyway, just wanted to recognize him as well. And then messaging. I think I may have already mentioned this already, but I'll mention it again. Messaging is one of the things on our roadmap that we're working on, and that is in testnet now. So if you wanted to play with it and send messages, and the other thing that messaging adds, and I think this is going to be used a lot as well, it's based on this IPFS idea, meaning the messages go in IPFS and they're not on chain. So if you want to do a message that's a 4K movie for your people to watch, you can do that. Because it's stored in IPFS and probably held by Ravenland, filling up his hard drives. So anyway, you can send messages, but you can also do, we're kind of distinguishing between messages and memos. A memo would just be a message, but it's for every transaction. So I can send, let's call it my token. My token, from here to Bob, and with that you can send a message or include an IPFS hash, and that could be anything, like the reason you sent it to them. It could be the cost basis. It could be whatever you want to put in IPFS hash, or another 4K movie. So anyway, that's all operating on testnet now. How many have heard of Vincent? Okay, mostly the folks from Medici. This one may not be as popular in Utah, but it is wine futures. So the ability to purchase wine that has been picked, crushed, fermented, put in barrels, so they know how much of it there is, but not really drinkable yet, right? It still has time to to season or whatever in the barrels. So that is also being done on Ravencoin. So when you purchase one of these tokens, it represents a share, like a case of wine that will be shipped sometime when it's ready. And so you get a token for that tokenized wine that will be ready at some point in the future. And there's a possibility, just working out the details, a possibility of that being tradable, because wine can become more valuable over time as they find out that it's really good year or whatever. Another one that's really, really cool, and I'm almost done here, is CoinText. So this is the ability to text people Ravencoin. So you might want to write down this number. And I just didn't make a slide for it. It's 1603. Yeah, you can put it in your phone contacts and put it as CoinText Raven. So it's 1603 301 4606. I'll read it one more time. 1603 301 4606. Only works in the United States. You can text START, S-T-A-R-T, just the word START, to that number, and it will give you a Ravencoin address. And you can fund that address. You can just send it from your wallet to that address. And now you'll have Ravencoin. They will be holding it. So if you worry about, don't send a ton of it. It's like being, held on Binance or something like that. It's been around for a while. And so you'll have those funds in there. They're holding the funds. But then you can basically go to that same number and say, send. And you can either put like $sign and some, like $sign 25 cents, like $sign 0.25. And somebody's phone number, and it will text Raven to them. And then it will be in their account. They don't have to fund it, right? And then they can text it to somebody else. It's basically just texting Raven around. And if you want to withdraw it, you can, I think there's a way to, you can say send, and then put in like the amount of Raven. So like 2.23 Raven or something like that, RVN. So put, that much Raven. So it knows that it's not like in dollars. And then a Raven address, and it will send it to that address. So you can go like to CoinText and then out of CoinText, and then you can send it to people. Yeah. And you can text, what is it, help or something, and it'll give you a list of commands? Yes, type help, give you a list of commands. You can type balance, and it'll tell you how much Raven and how much it's worth. So it might say like $3.13, and it's, like whatever, like, a couple hundred Raven or whatever it is. So anyway, it works great. I have texted Raven to a whole bunch of people. I have a candy machine that takes Raven, and I've texted Raven to the address on the candy machine. The candy machine lights up, and I can put my hand under the candy machine. So it's pretty cool. Works pretty well. So let me take questions about Raven or about any of these projects. Yeah, so the voting isn't done yet. But the way the voting will work is, let's say you had a token that had like 50,000 units. You made 50,000 of them, and you sent them to a whole bunch of people. And now you can basically send them vote tokens that would represent their vote pro rata, meaning, of these 50,000, when you send the vote tokens, you can say, I want to send them to everybody except this address. That might be your address, right? Or the treasury address, if you will, like you created them, but they haven't been distributed. So those really don't get a vote. Or maybe they do, maybe they represent your shares, and so that you have the bulk of the vote. Doesn't, either way, right? You can either exclude it or not exclude it. Send out votes, and it'll basically give everybody a vote token, but for however many tokens that they have. And then you basically say, send the vote here to this address to vote for one way or another. The difference between a vote token and a token, because you could do that even right now. You could just say, well, I'm just going to create same amount of tokens as my other tokens, send them to all the same addresses that everybody has, and then tell them where to send them to vote. You can do that now, today. It'll cost you to create those vote tokens. I think it's 100 Raven or something if you're making it a sub-asset. But when the vote's done, there's a whole bunch of UTXOs, which is unspent outputs or unspent vote tokens that just sit there kind of clogging up the network. So the difference, the other difference is vote tokens will basically just kind of, after a certain date, and you can set where that date is, will be null and void, right? So you can't continue to send vote tokens around. And that just saves space, saves memory, things like that. But other than that, it's pretty much a token that moves to addresses, based on the person's owning them and being able to sign the transaction over to an address. So that's what a vote is. And then if you wanted to build a second tier layer on top of that, you could build a website and things like that that make it, where you're clicking on candidate options and messages and things like that. Other questions about any of the projects or Raven?
How does the price impact projects? I mean, you have this free floating
Yeah.
value that
Ye-
is difficult. Like you said, it was $20 to purchase an asset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that reasonable? I mean, what if Bitcoin or Ravencoin goes to the moon?
Sure. That was actually an early concern. There were people. There was some concern. One that all the tokens would be burned. They would create all the assets, and there would be 43 million assets created, and so all the Raven would be gone. Not too concerned about that because I was going to hold some Raven, and they would as they would do it, and it was costing hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a new token. It wouldn't have been a problem, or it would have sold at that point. So the kind of the economics of it have worked well. There is the possibility that Raven goes to several dollars, but at the same time, when that happens, the amount of mining, right? Because there's 5,000 Raven mined every minute, so then you're talking about $10,000 worth every minute of Raven, which means you have a tremendous amount of mining, which you have a tremendous amount of security, like approaching Bitcoin security level, and it may be worth spending $500 or $1,000 to create tokens on a network that's that secure. So I think the two kind of work together in a way. It is possible it gets out of sync, out of whack somehow. Hasn't seemed to be a problem so far. If it does, these things are possible to upgrade when things are so far out of whack that the miners say, yeah, we need to fix this, right? And you can. Then it's really the miners that decide. We can write whatever we want into the code. I mean, we can write, well, not 21 billion, let's make it 42 billion, and the miners go, man, that's not. We don't want that. And so it's really the miners deciding what software to run, and that's kind of the security model of Bitcoin and pretty much all of these others. Yep. Other questions? Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So an asset is a root level asset, meaning it's in the base. We'll call it namespace. So in the base namespace, a bunch of names have already been taken, right? You might say, I want the name food or something like that, and that name is likely taken, right? Or business or something, that people are looking at the domain namespace and saying that was valuable, and so they may have grabbed that name. For a sub-asset, once then you do your name, Bob, and then everything under that, you get the entire namespace. So you can do Bob/food, and that's yours, right? And you have food in it, but it's kind of under almost like a subdirectory kind of thing. And you can actually create sub-assets of sub-assets. They're cheaper to create. They don't clog up the namespace, right? So food, you can create food and different, whatever the great names are under your namespace. And so that's freely yours, and it's also cheaper. So every sub-asset is 100 Raven to create, whereas in the root namespace, those are 500. Other than that, they're virtually identical. I mean, there's really no difference. There's no functional difference. Like Bob/food is just as good as food, maybe not as a name, but in terms of being a root, like its capabilities and having the ownership token that can send messages, the fact that you can create just as many of them, the fact that you can add IPFS hashes, all of that stuff, it acts like a top level, parent asset, right? And then you can create a sub asset under that, Bob/food/ whatever you want. And you can do that. The only limitation is, I think, 30 characters. So if you do, the root level has to be at least 3 characters, and then after that, you can do 1 character. So the sub-assets could be Bob/A. Once you own that, the owner of Bob/A can create Bob/A/B, and the owner of Bob/A/B has the ability to create Bob/A/B/C. And you can do that up to about 30 characters. And that's actually your limitation of you can't go forever is 30 characters. But unique assets. So unique assets, you own an asset, whether it's a top level asset or a sub asset, doesn't really matter. They all kind of work the same way. They have the same rights and everything. After that, you add a unique asset. You do a hashtag and then whatever letters you want. And those the letters in assets and sub assets are very restrictive, meaning they're all uppercase and the digits and underscore and dot. That's it. That's all you have. You can't do an exclamation mark. Can't do a dollar sign. You can't do all of that. When you do a unique asset, you can put other things. So you could put parentheses. You could put a VIN number. You could put you can put some symbols and things like that in it. Your restriction there is that you create the name. The name has to be unique within its namespace. So let's say Bob. These are terrible analogy, but Bob/food dollar sign or hashtag, and then that whatever that name is has to be unique within that namespace, right? So that way Bob/food/ that is unique, completely unique, and there's only one of them, right? Will only ever be one. You can't split it. You can't chop it in half. You can't say it's divisible to 8 decimal places, which you can on the other assets. You can create 21 billion with divisible to 8 decimal places if you want on the other assets. On a unique asset, there's one. It's representative of almost like a thing. And with that, you can do things like this token that has maybe a VIN number goes with the car. And so you could even send that, like the owner of the car has that with the VIN number, and then the car's system could be looking at the internet and saying, if you sign a transaction that says start, I'll start my engine because you're the only one that has it. There's only one of them. And when I see a transaction with that, I'll just fire up the engine, right? And that way you send that to someone else and then they have the ability to do that. Or you can say it represents like a certificate of authenticity. And there's already people who have done that. They've done posters, prints of things, and they put the private key of the asset on the back. So the first person that scans it, they're the owner. And then they could say, this poster goes along with a proof of authenticity or certificate of authenticity, a digital one that you would send to the next owner. Things like that. I mean, there's different use cases. So yes, it would be. Right? There are only 5 Raven. There's only one of them. It's represented. Yeah, it's a good fit for that. Yep. Let's see if there's any other question. I'll come back to you if you. Yeah. That's a great question. I'm going to say probably. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, people could tokenize. Well, I have heard of projects that are tokenizing real estate, art, things like that. So I would imagine that those representative will be worth more. But when you do this, it's a little different than Raven in that there is a person standing behind it saying, I'm honoring this agreement, right? So while the token may say it, and you may have the token, you still need to trust that the bridge between that and reality. So, other questions? Yeah. So sweep, we'll call it a feature. So sweep would be whenever you see sweep, and you'll see it in various crypto apps. Sweep means you usually point sweep. Sweep will usually take a private key, typically in the form of a barcode, right? So it's a paper wallet will typically have both your public part, which is your address where you deposit to, and the private key. A sweep typically wants the private key, so that you point your app and say, take a picture and take the private key, and then just grab everything that's stored, with that is stored in the public key or whatever, but can be transferred using the private key. Take everything out of it and sweep it into the internal system. So into it, and usually with a A lot of times with a wallet, you don't really see the private keys. A lot of times it's a seed, right? 12 words or something like that. Underneath, that's creating a bunch of private keys and a bunch of public addresses. It'll just pull it into the next public address typically, and just take everything out of the private, sign everything, grab everything out, and pull it into the. That way, your paper wallet now is empty. Whereas import, if you import it, it takes the private key, pulls it into the app, scans the chain for anything in there, and it might show up. Oh, you got you had 100 Raven or whatever, and shows up. The difference is that piece of paper that has the private key still has the private key. So if you left that somewhere or somebody took that, they could go sweep it or also import it. Now it looks like there's, they have it and you have it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So the nice part about sweep is like get all of it. So you don't have to worry about change. And it says take everything off of this private key and put it into a new private key that the phone holds. Import, I'm assuming import is like bring the private key that's on here into the phone. And so it now has the ability to sign transactions, but transactions with the same key that's now still sitting on the piece of paper. So that piece of paper, if you left it sitting around, would be at risk. Now, if you imported the private key into the phone, made sure you back it up and all of that kind of thing, or import it into the Qt wallet, which is a desktop wallet, import that private key. Now the paper wallet represents those funds, and the Qt has the ability to spend those funds. If you then took your paper wallet, assuming it's the only one, threw it in a blender with a bunch of liquid, that's fine, right? Now your Qt has the ability to spend, and the paper wallet is now non-spendable and non-attackable, if you will. That would effectively do the same thing. Of course, now you need to back up your wallet.dat because it has an additional private key that you just added to it. So you need to make sure that gets backed up. But sweep would be just like take all the funds off of that address, and now if you set that piece of paper somewhere, doesn't matter. You could hand it out to everybody. It's empty. Right? It's just a random number now. So that's the difference between import and sweep. Sure. Other questions? The sweep. So a lot of crypto wallets do, and the iOS wallet will have that. It's in testing now. So the iOS wallet will have that, and we will add it to the Android wallet as well. It's really good for paper wallets and just making sure you got everything off the paper wallet. Yep. Yes. So if you had the private key that your mining computer is using and could display that as a barcode, then you could just sweep it from there over to your phone. Well, typically the phone does best. I mean, it's really just the private key. The phone needs the private key. The easiest way is usually to take the picture of the scan the barcode is usually the best way to get your private key to your phone. And then the phone uses that private key to take all the funds off of that private key so that the private key is now worthless. Then just hit send. You just type, the wallet does send, right? I mean, you just put in an address and send it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the reason sweep exists is to say get everything off, whereas, it's just the easiest way to take it all off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Sure. So again, the question is, there's lots of other asset capable coins. What was missing? Why did you feel the need to create Ravencoin? There were things missing. So I mean, the ones you kind of know about, that people hear about, Mastercoin, now Omni, Counterparty, ERC20, colored coins. There were deficiencies, I think, in those. One of them was the metadata. So the metadata in a lot of those is a shortened URL that basically pointed to a website that are almost all gone now. And so you say, what was this coin for? Go to this URL and it's like, invalid domain, or it's now bought by somebody else or whatever. So the metadata was kind of disappearing. It was also like a two-tiered system. And so a lot of them were built on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's super secure, network, and, I don't want to say anything bad about Bitcoin. But when you have this second tier system that's basically scanning through the Bitcoin blockchain, and when you need to move an asset, it has this rule that says, for the Bitcoin network to keep track of this and to allow it, you need to send at least 546 Satoshis worth of Bitcoin. And so that moved with the asset. And so if that asset then split and you send it to 3 other people, you got to have 546, and you have to combine another transaction because the first one moved with only 546, and that isn't enough to split that, those 2 things you want to send to Bob and Alice, and now you have to have, supplement it with some more, not just fees. This isn't fees. This is the ability for Ravencoin to keep that transaction. It says, I'm not going to keep a transaction with 0 Bitcoin. That makes no sense to me. And it was using effectively the comments field of Bitcoin to be able to do this, right? It's super secure. You've embedded it. The comment's never going to change. That's fine. But you have to send some Satoshis, meaning 0.00546 Bitcoin with every asset. And so that got clunky. And then you also had to run a Bitcoin node anyway. And then you had to run the software kind of on top of it. It was just the ability to kind of solve a bunch of these problems kind of all at the same time and make it smoother, and to have RPC calls that kind of honor it and recognize it and things like that. So that was Other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Tron. I appreciate it. Every time he gets on stage, it feels like I learned something new about Ravencoin. And I think most people know what Ravencoin is, but I still think that it's good that I think we get like sort of some inside scoops on what's happening in the space. That will be the presentation for today. I appreciate everyone coming to the Bitcoin Meetup. A lot of times people want to hang out afterwards, so it looks like we got about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. So feel free to hang out amongst yourselves. A lot of good people here. Good networking. As always, if you guys need something, feel free to ask me, and I'm happy to see if I can try to help. But again, thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.